Hi, welcome to the Iris Prize 2020 podcast. We love everything about queer film, and this year we've gone all best of British. I'm Robert Gershenson, and I'm joined by filmmaker Anna Winstone, whose film Rhiw Goch on the Red Hill is shortlisted for the 2020 Iris Prize Best of British, which is supported by Film 4. The winner wins a bunch of services from Pinewood Studios to use on their next short film, and all 15 shortlisted films will get a UK-wide audience through Film 4 on all four. Anna, thanks for coming. Your short film touches on intergenerational friendships. In the age of social media, the selfie and generation me, is there a reluctance to learn or even care about the people whose lives made ours possible?
No, I think that more and more people are looking back to learn. I think you have to kind of at least learn from the past to kind of move forward a little bit. In doing that, you can kind of like learn from mistakes, or you can learn new things even to then move forward. But no, I think that especially with the kind of movements that are happening now, I think that more and more people are looking back to what happened, or even if it's looking back to what went wrong or what went right. Which
movements are that?
I'd say definitely Black Lives Matter movement. I say that the people are obviously educating themselves, and in doing that they have to learn what happened previously and what is still happening in order to move forward. And yeah, even with trans right movement that's going on at the moment as well, I think there's so much is being learned by what has happened up until now, kind of thing. So yeah, I think that especially with the generation like Gen Z and stuff, I think they're doing an amazing job at kind of like learning what has happened, in order to kind of move forward and to hopefully create a better place for everyone in the future.
Are you part of Gen Z?
No, I think do you know what?
Yeah,
I think I'm millennial. Yeah, I'm 27. So is that millennial?
You're millennial. Yeah.
So no, I'm not Gen Z, but yeah, I mean, they have to learn so much, especially with like, Extinction Rebellion and climate change. Even that, they're just, and the politics of everything that's going on at the moment, I think they're just doing an incredible job, aren't they? Just educating themselves. Yeah, they've got.
So how important is it for younger LGBTQI people to know about who came before? And I'm being quite specific in the history in this country, maybe in history in America, because we seem to be quite, connected in that respect.
Yeah, I think it's so important because you can learn a lot about your privilege now. You can learn, how far we've come, but also how far we can still go with rights, especially because when we were researching this film, we even learnt things about, when homosexuality was legalised in the UK. And, even important dates like that, it puts into context for you for how long people went, people who were, law-abiding citizens, people who respected the establishment that was the law, but that same establishment that they respected was also the same establishment that said who they could love, or said it was illegal to be who they were, or illegal to love who they were, who they wanted, kind of thing. So, and what that does to a person is just, it is cruel, essentially. So I think it's really important to learn kind of what has happened before, so that you can see not only what can be done, because you can see how those people kind of won those rights, what was done to win those rights, and then it kind of can help you to moving forward as well, and hopefully, creating a better place for everyone.
In terms of the younger generation in the LGBTQ community, is there much of a connection or a dialogue with the members in the older end of the community? And do they even socialise together?
I think there is a certain amount of dialogue. I think that there has to be, in order for people to learn and even share experiences of what they've been through. I think that dialogue is there. If it's as open, I don't know if it's as open as it could be. That's I'm not sure if it's quite there yet. But I think smaller cities like Cardiff, obviously it's smaller, so there is more of a socialisation going on and more conversations happening. But I think that's where things like also social media comes in, because social media, yeah, is bad in that, like, you know, horrible opinions could be said, but it's also a platform where people can share experiences, and it doesn't really matter about the age. Essentially, you can follow someone on Instagram or Twitter or whatever. You're not really looking at their age, you're just looking at them as a person, and it's through those that you can kind of like learn through their experiences, or even ask opinions or ask for advice and stuff like that. I think that's a really nice side of it. But yeah, so I think a certain amount is happening.
How can someone who is wanting to learn more about the past in terms of LGBTQI education, where can they start? What films would you recommend? What documentaries, books, TVs, comics?
Oh gosh, where to even start? I think there's some great documentaries. What's the name of the doc from New York? The ballroom scenes.
Paris is Burning.
Yes. So yeah, I'd recommend Paris is Burning for sure. I mean that I didn't knew nothing about the ballroom scene, and that ballroom scene in New York is like, it birthed so much in the creative industry, image wise. You know, you even look at pop stars today, and it's thanks to like the ballroom scene that they can sport today. It's where they were kind of tested out or even shown, or it's where the limits were tested, essentially. So yeah, docs like that are incredible, really. And yeah, I'm not sure books wise, but I'd say online, I know it is just basically where everyone starts, isn't it? Just online, even giving it a quick Google, kind of, if you want to learn about kind of like rights that happened in America and stuff like that, like with Stonewall, even if you want to learn about that, if you even give it a quick Google, if that's your starting point, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you're still putting an effort in to learn for yourself, and it's through doing that you can then find like various books, like even Mike's book for this doc, like he essentially goes through the history of gay rights, but in the UK, obviously. So yeah, On the Red Hill, that's a really good book. You should try that. But yeah, but just get a cheeky plug in there. But
well, talking about the film, how did you stumble upon this story? You know, George and Reg, the main people in the documentary that the story is about, they're not famous, and the cottage is literally in the middle of nowhere. So in both a physical place and a narrative place, it's almost undiscoverable. So how do you find this story?
So I found the story out through an article in the newspaper. It was talking about Mike first, and it was talking about Mike's experience of being gay in rural Wales. And I thought that was like rare enough in itself. And the picture that they used to go with it was of Reg and George.
So this is Mike Parker, who wrote the book On the Red Hill. Yeah, he
wrote the book. But yeah, the picture was just beautiful that went with it. So I started reading it and realised that it was based in Machynlleth in Mid Wales. And it's so rare to hear queer stories coming out of rural Wales, because like it just doesn't. The diversity in stories is just really lackluster, to be honest. But that is changing. But yeah, I just thought it was such a beautiful story. And I was like, the more people need to know about this, because it's stunning. So yeah, it all started with an article, and then we got in touch with Mike.
Well, that was going to be my next question. How do you approach him? Talk about that process of is there something you did before? Did you research? When did you approach him, and how did you approach Mike?
So I read his book that he wrote On the Red Hill, and then I literally just... how did I find him? I think it was through the publishers. So I contacted the publisher of the book, and then they passed me on Mike's email. And I didn't expect him to get back to me. I was like, oh, this man's going to be like, oh, this mad woman wants to interview me. Goodbye. But he was like, yeah, come up. We'll have a cup of tea. We'll talk about it. So we drove up.
Literally... How far away is it?
It's from Cardiff. It's about 3.5 hours. So
it's not a short trip.
No, not at all. But it's such a good story. I was like, I just want to get this story. It's so good. And then, so yeah, we went and met Mike, and yeah, he's incredible. He like made pumpkin soup and homemade bread for us, and like, yeah.
So he was open to it. It's not like you had to say, look, this is what I want to do.
No,
he was like, I'm on board.
Oh, yeah, he was so on board because he just loves the story as well, and he's so proactive in wanting people to know more queer stories, wanting people to be more educated, especially when it comes to gay rights and so on. And he just loves Reg and George, and he loves his house as well.
Well, they were busy mates, weren't they?
Yeah, they were so close. And so I think for him to see like essentially a stranger come up and be like, your story's incredible, you're incredible, like I want to film you. I think he was like, yeah, let's just go for it. Plus he's so chill, he's lush, so he was down for it.
Proper chill.
Yeah.
So what was pre-production like? I mean, how do you plan for something like this? Do you have a structure that you want to follow? Do you have a shot list, or do you just go on the day and you blag it and make it up?
No, because the archive is so huge with this.
So all the pictures of Reg and
George. Because George was a photographer. So throughout Reg and George's life, there's thousands of photos that they have. So going into this, we knew that like we had to have quite a strict, I guess, shot list in a way. But we kind of had tried to structure it a little bit so that we knew kind of what points that we wanted to get at. So yeah, and because the archive is so big, you have to kind of like aim for what you want as well out of the archive. So what we did was we wanted to hit certain points in their life. So when Reg and George were young, and then when they moved to Rhiw Goch, and then when kind of like Mike and Predid took it over. So yeah, that's how we kind of started. And then yeah, we went in with quite a strict like shot list. And then went from there, really. Saying that, we were organised going in, but then as soon as you start shooting, you start seeing other stuff, and we started finding other things in the archive.
But that's always the way.
Yeah, exactly.
So what is in the finished film that kind of came out of that improvised element?
Reg's artwork, for sure. Because we knew a little bit about Reg's artwork, but it's incredible when you see it. The whole barn that they have is just covered in paintings, and the house is covered in paintings that this man has painted from very young to when he was old, because he was so severely dyslexic that painting for him was his what's the word? It's like not output.
His output.
Output, yeah. So painting,
his creative output.
Yeah, it was his creative output.
Outlet.
That's it. Yes. Outlet. That's what I was looking for.
So I knew Iris hired me for a reason.
So yeah, that's a bit. Yeah, so the paintings, but we didn't realise quite how much they meant to Reg. I mean, he's brilliant at kind of organising the house, and the house is so creative, and it has so many like little trinkets and bits everywhere, but you can tell that like someone's thought about them. They're almost like little areas. So
the house is basically like a museum to Reg and George.
Yeah, in a way. Like Mike and Predid have also made it theirs for sure.
Because I was going to ask, how would they feel about? I mean, the older couple left the younger couple the house. The younger couple move in, and it seems like it's still looking like the older couple's house. So how would they feel about living in a museum to someone else?
Yeah, well, it's actually, so when they moved in, it was it was in a pretty bad way, but it was just cluttered.
Right.
So they've actually taken quite a lot out and essentially organised it, but it's now this really beautiful mix of like, so there's Predid's work up on the wall, but there's also Reg's work up on the wall, and there's Mike's books next to George's books. So it's this like, it's really beautiful combination of like, two different generations mixing. So it is theirs completely, and they have made it theirs.
The film isn't overly flashy. It's a very simply made economical film. The story is the focus here, but visually it's not static. There is movement. You've got panning, tracking shots. You've got some pans. You've got maybe some drones. Am I
drone
thinking?
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you come up with the visual style?
So because we knew we were filming a house, and the house itself, because it's such an old house, it's very dark. I knew that I didn't want any of the shots to become so crowded and so dark that you don't know where to look. So I think in that case you can use camera movement to kind of help the viewer in a way to like make them feel like they were walking through the space as well. I think I wanted that feeling to come out of it. So I mean, we did so many tracking shots, but the ones that we selected are kind of like the social spaces, so like the kitchen and stuff, because I feel like you want to feel like you're moving through the house as we're talking through it. And because, like you say, the film is so simple, I didn't want to overcrowd it with like flashy effects or editing essentially, but I think you can use camera movement to just kind of help the story move along and I think help help whoever's watching it feel like they're in the house too, kind of thing.
The first shot is lovely. It's just literally moving towards the open door. It's inviting you in. It's literally saying, this story is about this house. Let's come in.
Yeah. That's. I'm so glad you got that.
How long was the shoot? How long did he just say? Oh yeah, just move in, whatever. 6 months.
No, 4 days.
4 days. That's quite long.
Yeah, it was. So everyone that was working on it, we all had jobs outside of it. Right. So we all only had these 4 days free that we could work on the film. So we went up. We booked an Airbnb that was meant to be for 3 people, but there was 5 of us. We just slept on.
You schmeiss a few extra people in.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, they were fine with it. And then we just literally shot every day. So our editor actually came with us, and he's the one that scanned in all the archive while we were out filming.
Oh, he had the good job then.
Yeah, he had. Yeah. But he was amazing at it, because I mean, it needed someone techie anyway. But so then we went out filming with Mike. We did loads of walking with him. We had to do a master interview with him. We had to then shoot the whole house as well. 4 days altogether, and then it was done, and then lots of editing.
How did you know you had everything you needed when you packed up the kit up, got in the car, and drove back?
I didn't.
Were you having that fear?
Yeah, I mean, you can do a tick list to some extent, but you'll always have that fear. And I just remember when we were driving back, I was like, oh my God, what if we didn't get that? Or what if we got that, but it wasn't quite right? Or what if I want to change that? But you just got to go with what you've got at the end of the day. But what we did end up with was perfect. And like Josh, our DP, he's incredible anyway. So obviously didn't have to worry too much. But
when did the edit process start? Immediately, or did you give yourself some breathing space?
So we had a lot of footage, so we gave ourselves about a week. Me and Joel, the editor, gave ourselves about a week to watch it all. And then the biggest issue for us was the master interview, because we ended up having I think it was like a 3-hour interview in the end. To cut
and
down.
It's only a 9-minute doc.
Yeah, 9 minutes.
And probably half of it is talking.
Yeah. So, essentially, I think talking wise, we've got about 5 minutes of talking. Not even that, actually. But so, we had to transcribe it all and everything. So the editing, I think it took us about a month in the end, but then we kept on going back. So we kept on taking breaks, because it's a bit difficult, because you watch something so many times, you're not very objective to what you've created. So it's like getting your friends to watch it, and then they get fed up of watching
fresh
it.
Eyes?
Yeah, essentially. Pretty much all of my housemates had to watch it. Everyone. But so the editing process was very long, because on top of the interview, we had all the archive that we had to select and decide. And so that was quite tricky as well, working that in. And that became actually the trickiest point, was letting go of some parts. But because they were archive, they felt really special, so it was really difficult to get rid of them in a way.
The film doesn't feel overwhelmed with old pictures. I don't feel like I'm watching someone's slideshow. They've just come back from holiday and they want to show you everything.
That's good.
It's very selective. I think you found a good balance there.
Yeah, that's the thing, because originally we were going to get some more like news archives to talk about because Reg and George's relationship did go throughout 60 years and they did pass the date of when homosexuality was legalised, we wanted to touch on that a bit more. But it didn't quite work within the film, because I think it sounds better coming from a personal perspective of Mike explaining it to you, rather than, like, say if you use news footage or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it takes it out of the story a bit too much. But yeah, so the archive, yeah, we had to say goodbye to quite a bit of it, but yeah, I'm happy with what we've got.
When did you realise you were happy?
Oh gosh, I don't know, because I'm awful for, like, we'll be like, yeah, this is it, we've got it, and then I'll watch it again, and then Joel will get a message from me at like 2 a.m, which is like, can you just move that bit to that bit to that, and bless him, he does it all. So I'm quite bad, but yeah, and I still watch it now and I'm like, oh, there's little bits that need changing, but yeah, you just have to just bite the bullet and be like, this is it, this is fine. And I always go by, get other people to watch it.
Yes.
And then watch their reaction, because if they start watching it and they're on their phone like halfway through, you haven't quite got it. But if they're watching it and they're watching it right the way through, you've got it, essentially.
Well, if other people are watching it and it's only a 9-minute documentary and they're on their phone, they're not friends. You don't want to keep them in your life.
Get rid of them.
I would cut them out.
Yeah.
So let's go back. Where did you grow up? I'm guessing Wales?
Yeah, Isle of Anglesey.
Where's
up
that?
North. So it's the island at the top of Wales.
Oh, wow. So it's like drive up, then a boat, and then a drive
Not
again.
a boat. There is a bridge that connects it.
Right.
Well, there's 2 bridges that connect us. But yeah, so it was right at the top. But yeah, it's a little island.
Okay, and you were a cinema kid?
Yeah, I was obsessed with films. Like, I love
ones?
films. I'd say it started with like the classics that everyone does, like Quentin Tarantino and stuff, because you think it's cool. I mean, it is cool to some extent, but it's where everyone starts. I feel that then goes more into film.
In your age?
Yeah, well, yeah. But then I was also obsessed with like I don't like my. So I have two older sisters, and they always watch rom-coms. So for me, my whole teenage years were like rom-coms, essentially. So from like your Bridget Jones to your like Sally Meets Harry, all of those kind of things, that was my filmic upbringing. So it was not very filmic in that, like...
Well, it's storytelling.
It is, and I think they're underappreciated. I will always say they're underappreciated.
What was the spark that said, I'm going to be a filmmaker?
Do you know, there's a film called Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown. It's by Pedro Almodovar, and there's an opening sequence of that film that I think is one of the best opening sequences any film that's ever been made. And it was after I watched that film that I was like, I want to make films. I want to make that. That is what I want.
How old were you when you saw that?
I was 18, actually. I was like...
So 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God, yeah, it is. Wow. So, but yeah, I was like, I knew... I mean, it took me years to actually, like, be brave and study film, but I knew that I wanted to do something in film, for sure.
So it wasn't immediate. You didn't start going out writing, making short films, learning on the job.
No, I was too much of a wimp. Plus, I love fashion, so I went to fashion school and did that.
You can mix them together.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure, they're connected.
Definitely have one foot in the film, one foot in the fashion.
Yeah. No, they're for sure connected, but fashion's just it just wasn't quite for me. But so it took me years, and I tried doing fashion, realised it wasn't quite for me. And then I just was waitressing for years. And it's weirdly, when I was waitressing, I remember a customer shouted at me once. And I remember he said to me, like, oh, why don't you just go and do something that you're actually good at? And I was like, do you know what? I was all right. I can make a banging latte, to be fair. But he was just an idiot. But I was like, do you know what? I actually am going to do this because I can't be bothered with being shouted at by weird men anymore. So
he was right.
Yeah.
But he's still an idiot.
But he's still an idiot. Yeah.
When did you think, right, I'm going to go to film school?
Pretty much that day. I made like a uni application that day when I went home.
Which uni was it?
It was USW. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
And what course?
Film.
Film. So how did you
Yeah.
go from being inspired by Almodovar
Yeah.
to making documentaries?
So I had a lecturer on the film course called Sally Lisk-Lewis, and she kind of just mentored me in a way, like, because it wasn't until second year, because I was like, oh, I think I want to do dramas, and then second year started doing documentaries, and I was just good at finding people, and I was just good at like getting stories from people as well, but in a nice way, it's a kind of thing. So she kind of just took me under her wing, and I kind of then specialised in documentary with her, and she's just incredible. Anyway, she's amazing as a person. But
what is it about stories and documentaries and the truth? What is it about that appeals?
I think it's a privilege that someone gives you their story or their experience to tell, and that those experiences or their story can help to teach other people. Help to teach other people things that they maybe wouldn't have looked at or maybe wouldn't have thought about before. But yeah, I think it's just the privilege of finding people, and then if they're amazing enough to share their experiences with you. I love it, to be honest. Like, I think it's so special. Yeah.
In the age of fake news,
yes,
deep fakes, and politicians playing fast and loose with the truth, how can we all ensure that at the end of the day, only truth remains?
Gosh, that's a big question.
That's what people tune in for on the Iris podcast.
It's communication, but communication person on person, sharing experiences that are real. You can read an article about anything you want, and any article will have any opinion that you're looking for, but it's through talking to people and it's communicating with people, their experiences, their stories, and you have to listen as well. That's how you keep a truth, because I mean, with fake news, it'll just peddle you any opinion that you want to hear. But so if you kind of are willing to listen, then talking to people, that's how you keeping in touch with people. That's how you find it. That's how you keep it.
What about your responsibility as a filmmaker in that respect? How do you make sure you're always truthful and you're not just trying to angle in for the film?
That's the thing. It's difficult at the end of the day. You have a duty of care to your contributor, which is huge, because obviously you have to look after them. But it is a kind of selfish act in a way, because you are using their story. I think it matters what your intention is. If your intention comes from a good place, if it's one that's caring, and if you just want to share their experience with others, I think you can't go far wrong. All you're doing is essentially thinking about how to deliver that. So in a visual sense with sounds and so on. But I think it matters about the intention of it. That's where the key is. But if you have a hurtful intention going in, making a film, using someone's story it's not going to come out well. So I think that's where the filmmaker has to sit down and really think about, what do you want out of this? Not only what do you want, but what people should know from this, and how you can go about it in the best way and the most caring way as well. So,
when you showed Mike the film, were you nervous?
Oh yeah, so nervous.
So did you send him a link, or did you go up there to watch it with him?
No, we sent him a link. We sent him that, and he loved it. But I was so scared because we cut a lot out. That's what my fear was. that because when you come to cutting someone's story down to 9 minutes, you're obviously going to miss huge parts. And you're like, oh God, what if that's their life? You can't, you have to know that. But so that's what I was a bit scared of, that he'd be like, oh, why have you cut that? Why have you cut this? But he was absolutely so delighted with it, and he was so complimentary. And like when we got into Iris, he was so like happy for us as well. So yeah, it was fine in the end.
Was that a weight off your shoulders?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I just didn't, because he's so brilliant, and I didn't ever want to upset him or make him feel like I'd kind of taken the piss with him. But no, he loved it, so I actually didn't need to worry. But I think it's a good thing that I did worry, because if you're not worrying, then I don't know if you care that much, to be honest. So
do you think the fact that he's a writer and he would have had his own turmoil and struggle as he was writing Reg and George's story, that he understood your quandary that you can't have everything in the pot?
Yeah, I think for sure. Yeah, like, because our interview was hugely long, but that was partly my fault, because I was asking him more and more for stories, because he has amazing stories. But he understood, like, he was in that room with us. He knew that the interview we got was like 3 hours. Mm-hmm. He knew that we only had like 4 minutes of it in there. But yeah, he completely understood. He's never like been like, how dare you take that out? I think he just knows.
He just knows.
Yeah, he just knows. He's clever.
Do you think you could do a feature?
Oh my God, yes.
Do you want to?
Yeah, I'd love to do a feature.
Are you going to?
Yes, someone pays me.
But seriously, I mean, you must have some projects coming up. What's next?
Yeah, so I'm under an NDA, so I can't talk.
Well, you don't have to tell us names or anything, but just give us a flare of what it could be skirting that NDA.
Yeah, I'm working on some documentaries.
That you're directing?
Not kind of part of production.
Okay.
So yeah. Sorry, I'm just trying to think of like what I can say without getting in trouble. Yeah, I'm working on some documentaries coming up. I'm working with a really good production company in Cardiff called Kailash, and yeah, so we're working on documentaries coming up with them, but they're going to be in Welsh language, which is really fun.
Is this for TV or for film?
So one of them is film, and then the other two are TV. So that's exciting. So, but yeah.
So you get a foot in each camp.
Yes, yeah, which is really good.
But what about you? What about your next directorial effort?
Well, I'm still quite early on in my career, so still got quite a long way to go, but hopefully, COVID allowing as well, by the end of this year, we'll start shooting something with Josh, who I worked on this film with. So yeah, we've got an exciting project coming up. We're hoping to work with quite a few young people. It's going to be a Welsh story. Can't say much more than that, but yeah, it's going to be really exciting, and yeah, hopefully shooting at the end of the year.
A few final questions. What would you say to anyone young, middle-aged or old who is now just starting their life, their filmmaking life? What advice would you give them?
Be brave, I think, for sure, because it's scary, and it can be quite an ominous world to try and get into, even no matter if it's dark or drama, whatever side you want to go into. You just got to be brave and keep asking questions, but also be kind to people, because I think a lot of people think you have to have a certain bravado to get into film, and you don't at all. People just want to work with good people in film. They respond well to good people. So if you're starting out, be kind, ask questions, be curious, be brave, and you'll be fine, honestly.
I believe that all creatives, we have this internal negative voice that says, no, this isn't for you. What are you doing? You're an idiot. How do you combat that when you're in the midst of working?
Gosh. I think surround yourself with good people. I don't think myself, I get to points where I'm like, oh, this isn't good enough. This just isn't good enough, because you do get yourself in those holes. But that's when, if you surround yourself with good people, it doesn't even have to be people that you're working with, even if it's a friend or a family member, or if you are lucky to work with, really good people, you just say it. You just got to voice it to them. I'm not sure about this. This isn't working, or I'm not happy with this. And they're either going to tell you the truth, where they're like, well, this is a load of bollocks, isn't it? Or they're going to be like, do you know what? Stop being stupid and just get on with it, which is usually what it is, because I think a lot of creatives are a bit diva as well, where we're like, oh my god, this isn't good enough. And then
so you're saying it's good to get the voice out,
yeah,
to
for
vocalize
sure.
it.
Just vocalize, like, if you're having those worries, having those issues, even if it's something as silly as like, I don't think I'm good enough for this, like, you need to tell someone that, and tell someone that you can trust, because they're going to be like, do you know what, you are, there's a reason why you thought of that idea, there's a reason why you're doing this. So yeah, vocalize it, acknowledge it, and then just get on with it, kind of thing. That's one of the ways that I find, because yeah, I'm constantly being like, I don't know if this is quite right, but oh well.
Anna, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day
Thank you.
to come and do this.